Hi, this is Adam Feinberg, and welcome to another episode of Harlem Stories.
And I'm Mark Becker joining Adam today.
Awesome. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite uptown parks outside of Central Park, but Riverbank State Park. And Riverbank is rather unique. There's really nothing else like it in not only New York City, but really there's nothing else like it in the Western Hemisphere. So Riverbank is actually just one of only 3 state parks in all of Manhattan. There's the other 2 are Hudson River Park and Franklin D. Roosevelt for Freedom Park on Roosevelt Island. You know, I know not everyone considers Roosevelt Island the same as Manhattan, but it is included as part of Manhattan.
When I get buyer clients asking me if they should consider Roosevelt Island, my response is always the same. Head out there for a couple hours and then get back to me.
Yeah, exactly. As subway access and just access in general.
You can take the gondola.
Yeah, you can take the gondola, but obviously it's I guess rush hour has been changed a little bit by COVID, but I used to say try getting onto the subway during rush hour, over there. But return to work has brought most people back, but not quite the same. But yeah, even still, it's not easy from there. In any case, Riverbank, it's one of the most heavily used of the state parks with about 3 million visitors a year. It's located within Hamilton Heights, and entrances are at 137 in Riverside, as well as 145th and Riverside. Both there's subway stops just a block over at Broadway at both 137 and 145. There's park facilities located along the bank of the Hudson River. We say it's kind of unique, and this is the reason why. It was proposed by the city in 1962. The North River Water Control Pollution Control Plant was operational by 1986 and began conducting a secondary level of sewage treatment in 1991. It was one of the country's most expensive non-military public works projects of the time, and the plant removes pollutants for the wastewater for the entirety of Manhattan's West Side. In 1968, after learning of the plant's proposed location, West Harlem residents formed 2 community groups: the West Harlem North River Environmental Review Board and the West Harlem Environmental Action, and became heavily involved in the design process for Riverbank State Park, which was proposed to mitigate the plant's impact. The 28-acre park, it's the only structure of its kind in the Western Hemisphere, as the park is built on top of the water treatment plant and elevated 69 feet above the Hudson River. The park opened in 1993, and it was designed based off the roof of a building inspired by buildings in Japan. So that's why I always say just how unique this park is. The entire structure is actually placed on the Hudson River along the edge of the bank, sitting on 2,300 caissons pinned into bedrock up to 230 feet beneath the river. Some earlier versions included fully decking out over the West Side Highway to contain continuous park, but these were deemed too expensive. I don't think that was ever realistic, but instead, pedestrian bridges were put in to access the park above the West Side Highway. While these are not particularly wide, the BX19 bus line starts and terminates in Riverbank, goes across town on 145th Street into the Bronx, ending at the New York Botanical Garden. So the M11 bus also takes you directly into the park. Due to the limited load-bearing capacity of the plant below, the park's 5 buildings are steel frame construction with metal panels and brick facade tiles. Dedicated odor control facilities have been installed at the plant and have helped, but there's still days where it didn't seem to help. And believe me, I grew up, coming into the city, kind of experiencing that. My parents used to joke that if I'm a little boy, that they drop me off over there, not knowing that ultimately I'd wind up living nearby.
Or becoming a tennis player.
Yeah. Ultimately, in recent years, the plant ultimately had $55 million in recent upgrades, and the odor issues have been sufficiently mitigated in the last few years. So the park is massive and includes an Olympic-sized swimming pool, covered skating rink, and that's all roller or ice, depending on the season. 800-seat cultural theater, a 2,500-seat athletic complex and fitness room, a 400-meter running track, a 150-seat restaurant, community gardens, picnic tables, horticultural learning lab. It just seems to go on, and I can just say there's also dedicated space for football and a soccer field, baseball fields, tennis, basketball, handball, etc. There's also a seasonal kiddie carousel. So I mentioned that the park draws about 3 million visitors a year. Some clients have told me that even though they weren't very familiar with the neighborhood, that they have spent actually a lot of time in Riverbank due to the large number of organized activities that can be found in the park, especially for growing families that need to find affordable and fun things to do.
It's a great way to spend a day.
Yeah, and or since I do live in the neighborhood, if I want there are days where I want to just decompress. You can sometimes find me on the path within the park along the waterfront, just sitting on one of the benches, looking out at the Hudson, just trying to relax. There's lots of planned events. Take a look at the park website to stay informed, but they have music events. Shakespeare in the parking lot has performed there, and there's so many other free or low-cost events that are held in the park. When Macy's holds their July 4th fireworks in the Hudson, you can watch with a fraction of the crowds from the south portion of the park. And I think the last couple points I just want to make before concluding this episode. The Hudson River Greenway, which connects the bicycle and walking trails along the Hudson River, it's beside the highway and to the side beneath the elevated structure of the park. And earlier this year, in 2023, the state announced that the park is getting a $26 million makeover. And I can tell you firsthand, I've been watching the transformation of the old running track and becoming a brand new running track. So pretty nice that they're investing in maintaining the park, and I think this is really an interesting cultural gem.
Ultimately improve values in the neighborhood as well.
Yeah. In fact, I can tell you, there was a buyer that I was working with, like the apartment that I was showing, and but wasn't 100% fully sold in the neighborhood. She happened to be enjoy running, and I'm like, oh, we should definitely take a look at Riverbank State Park. There's a dedicated running track over there. And I took her to the park, and she was just like blown away, not even recognizing, that there was anything like that, uptown. She grew up near Chelsea Pier, so that kind of helped offset, realizing that moving all the way uptown, I'm like, ooh, there's something really interesting right here on the Hudson. So, yeah, I think that can give a little bit more perspective in terms of property values, especially, for, all those condo conversions that are along Riverside Drive. But that certainly, I know, helped me sell a couple of apartments in the area. But,
any added value you can find, whether you're a buyer or a broker, you want to search that out. And Riverbank State Park is certainly some added value for that neighborhood.
Yeah, absolutely unique and different, and certainly a great addition to the neighborhood. I like to say that the uptown neighborhoods are just filled with parks. Everywhere you go, and I live within Hamilton Heights, and I can tell you I'm within 10 minutes, no more, walking distance of 4 different parks in the neighborhood, so including Riverbank. So yeah, it gives you a lot of great options, especially for those that want a lot more green space than Manhattan typically offers. So with that, thank you for joining us for another
yourself a day at Riverbank State Park.
Yeah, just come up, enjoy, sightsee, relax, have some good times. And we hope to, that you stay tuned for additional episodes of Harlem Stories.
All the best.
Thank you.